My name is Rod Hughes, and I'm a reenactor here at Hut 9 today. I'm going to tell the story of my father, Mr. Fred Hughes. He was in the Royal Navy during the war. His ship was called HMS Newfoundland, and in 1942 his ship was in for refurbishment in Falmouth, and my father at the time asked for time off to go to Port Talbot to meet his mother again. He was given time off, but he was asked at the same time to take a train with prisoners of war that was arrived, and they were going to be shipped over via the train to Hut 9, the war camp here. During that period of time, he was then given the job as what they term in the Navy a regulator, a policeman. And he was given a Webley pistol to carry to control the German prisoners of war on the train. During the period of time that he was then home, he had to come back and forth to the camp in order to act as security. He was always short of security. After that period of time, he went back to his ship, which was HMS Newfoundland. And HMS Newfoundland was commissioned then to go to the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean at time at the war, where the Germans were fighting near Malta and around Alexandria. While they were patrolling there, an Italian torpedo boat fired a torpedo at the rear of HMS Newfoundland and blew all the steering apart. This meant that they couldn't steer the ship properly. The Italian torpedo boat didn't last very long once they'd spotted him. The ship then had to leave the Mediterranean and get across out of the Mediterranean over the Atlantic to Boston in order to be refitted. This is where HMS Newfoundland had a claim to fame, because it crossed the Atlantic with no steering whatsoever, but by the use of the two propellers, starboard and port, using one or either faster in order to steer right or left. It then got to Boston and was refitted. My father then had to return to the ship in the American port so that they were posted out to Pacific. He then fought out in the Pacific Fleet with the Americans, the New Zealand Navy and the Australian Navy against the Japanese. When at the end of the war came, my father was in Yokohama Bay, and he was then invited, all the ships that were in Yokohama Bay were invited, soldiers and sailors and airmen who were there at the particular time of the end of the war, to attend USS Missouri, where the declaration of the end of the war was signed. And this is the certificate here to say that my father witnessed the signing at the end of the war in Japan, in Yokohama Bay. MacArthur then dispensed with all the fleet. My father then, in his ship, sailed around Japan, picking up prisoners of war and bringing them back home. The end of the war in Europe was in 1945. In 1946, the Japanese were still fighting. So my father was in the Navy, and it was termed the Forgotten War. At the end of the war, he got back home, and he then was decommissioned out of the Navy. So he returned back home to his loved one. This is his Navy handbook. And there he got back to my mother. They married within a month, and I'm here to tell the tale. And that's my story about Fred Hughes, the Royal Navy sailor on HMS Newfoundland during the war. Thank you.